Welcome to another installment of A More Perfect Career, a place where information is shared, ideas are exchanged, and individuals in career transition gain insights about landing their perfect job. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner. Today, we are sitting with Gene Bradshaw. Gene served in the U.S. Navy for approximately 12 years. As a naval flight officer, he was assigned to VQ-1. While stationed on Guam, he was involved in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. As a mission commander of a team of 30, he and his crew were selected to be the first flight to support fleet operations during Desert Storm. After being an NFO instructor at Naval Air Training Unit, where he received his Master Training Specialist designation, he finished his naval career with VPU-1, where he was again a mission commander. In that role, he was involved with multiple missions overseas that supported U.S. national interests. Gene has since put his dual Masters of Arts degrees to good use as a human resources professional in the Pittsburgh region. He has multiple years of experience in recruiting, training, and employee relations. During his tenure with various companies, he has assisted in their growth and continued success in the marketplace. As a veteran that was in HR, he took the lead on local veteran hiring. In this role, he was recognized for significantly impacting local military hiring initiatives. Gene has also continued to assist others. He has been a coach and mentor to various veterans, assisted in mock interviews, and is an active member of VFW Post 7505. In addition, over the last 20 years, he has been a volunteer facilitator, program director, and board member for Priority to Work, a faith-based organization that assists people that are seeking employment. So today, welcome, Gene Bradshaw.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Gene, that's a very impressive bio. And before we get started, I would like to thank you for your service to our country. It's a very special thing that you did and that our veterans continue to do. And I just want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much. I had a good time doing it. It was my pleasure.
So at the end of that, towards the end of that bio in the last paragraph, we mentioned Priority to Work. Priority to Work is a organization that helps people that are in job transition. And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to get you on the show to talk to you about not only your background, but what the work is that you do with Priority to Work and how Priority to Work helps people that are in career transition. So,
Wonderful.
So if we read that short bio about you, can you just go into a little more depth about your background for us?
Well, sure. So I was a naval flight officer in the Navy for 12 years. During that time, I had an opportunity when I was based on shore to go back to school and work on my master's. Decided to get a dual master's in management and HR because I felt, based on my research, that managers at the time were getting themselves in a lot of trouble because they weren't familiar with the HR laws. Once I finally transitioned out, I felt that HR was a better fit for my personality and started a career in HR, where I started as a recruiter and then went into recruiting management. And then got involved as an HR business partner with my last organization, where I spent 10 years with them in helping them with employee relations, the training, and the recruiting.
Wonderful. Okay. How, in your mind, has the HR function changed over the last, say, 15 to maybe 20 years?
Well, that's a long scope of time to consider, Greg, but I think the biggest influence on the HR field has been the recognized importance of the human resource area with all its different pieces of training and recruiting and how it affects the organization. And probably the biggest influencer to all that has been the technology piece. So, when we first started, or some of the companies that I worked with initially, it was all paper and paper chasing. Now, a lot of it is automated and computerized, especially in the talent acquisition and recruiting end of things.
Wonderful. I can remember, if we go back 15 to 20 years, the HR function, HR people were referred to as the personnel department.
Correct.
Because they did everything having to do with personnel.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, it's human resources, which is a much larger role than just dealing with the personnel.
Absolutely.
Are there things that that make this area, southwestern Pennsylvania, for instance, this geography, different than other areas when it comes to finding a job?
It's hard to say because my focus has kind of been in Pittsburgh since I got out of the Navy. So I'm kind of, more used to this area. But yeah, there's some idiosyncrasies with Pittsburgh. Some of it has to do with the unwillingness to commute. So one of my first things that I noticed with the Pittsburghers are they weren't really excited about going through tunnels and over bridges to get to a job. So that was always a fun thing to realize. And it's also people aren't willing to leave Pittsburgh once they get here. So that's always one of the other fun things is trying to get people to maybe take another growth opportunity in another city or something like that. And a lot of Pittsburghers are hesitant in doing that.
That's interesting. When I moved to Pittsburgh back in 1981, I think it was, Pittsburgh at that time had the highest percentage of, how do you phrase it, people that grew up here and started working here, stayed here for their entire life. It was an overwhelmingly high number in the 80%, over 80% range of people that grew up here, never left southwestern Pennsylvania.
Yes, and I think that trend still continues. So, some of the, kind of going back to the local market, the boomerang kind of influence. So, just was reading the Allegheny Conference inflection report again, and they say 50% of the college students leave the area. But at some point, I think they come back, when they're a little bit older because, Allegheny County in Southwest PA does have one of the older working populations in the country.
That's interesting. And you mentioned at the beginning of that, the reluctance for people to travel distances. We're up here in the North Hills, what's called the North Hills of Pittsburgh. There's like another whole country on the other side of town called the South Hills.
There is.
And people don't go back and forth between because there's a river, a tunnel, or a bridge that you have to navigate to get to the other side of town. It is an interesting dynamic that we do have here in Pittsburgh that we don't have in other areas. So I had mentioned years ago, the HR function was called personnel, and the personnel department kind of did everything. Nowadays with HR, there are specialties within the HR fields. Do you have some particular areas within HR that you specialize in?
Sure. I think the top two that I specialize in or think that I'm fairly decent at is the talent acquisition and recruiting side of the house. Keeping up with doing the interviewing and the evaluations of candidates, and also the training aspect of things. So with my Navy career, I was a trainer there for a little bit, instructing new navigators, and that has carried over into corporate America where, every chance I get, I've raised my hand to be the trainer. So I've done onboarding, I've done leadership development, I have done some, grassroots development of coursework and knowledge sharing to our leadership so that they understand the HR functions, what we bring to the table, and how we can assist them in more effectively leading the organization.
Okay, wonderful. So when we first met, I had come to speak at a priority to work meeting that you guys had. How did you get involved with Priority to Work?
Well, happened many, many moons ago, but I was new to Pittsburgh, just out of the Navy, had my first job, thought I'd be with that company for the next 20 years and finish things out. Unfortunately, that lasted about 14 months. They had a merger with another organization, and I experienced my first corporate downsizing. And while I was in search mode, stumbled across Priority to Work up in the North Hills, and started going to the classes, and thought the people that were involved in it were dedicated to helping people find work. And actually, that led to me getting some contract work, which led to some permanent positions. And since I was in HR and had gone through the program and thought that my background might be a fit for help assisting them, so kind of going back to the whole helping people service need that I had from the Navy, volunteered to be an instructor for them.
Wonderful. And how many years ago was that?
20.
Wow. So you've been involved with Priority to Work for 20 years now.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what Priority to Work does, what the mission is.
Sure. So Priority Works is a faith-centered organization that exists to assist people in career transition. So that could be people that have lost their job. That could be people that are thinking there's something better out there and want to be proactive and get things ready. Our core group ends up being somebody typically that has been in their position 10 to 20 years and gets downsized, and they don't quite know what needs to happen in order to get back into the career fields that they're used to. So we work with them one-on-one in groups. We have classes. We have various other venues, and we partner with other organizations around Pittsburgh to ensure that they get the tools that they need so that they can be successful in their job search.
Wonderful. Okay, so my next question was, and you just answered it, what stage in their careers are most of the clients that come to Priority to Work, but somewhere in that generally 10 to 20 year range. So.
Yeah, now we've gotten a smattering of younger people coming through that are aware of us. And,
Okay.
most of our, promotions or marketing has been word of mouth. So not everybody knows about us. I always tease, we're the best kept secret in the North Hills. But we offer, half a dozen different programs that might assist somebody that's in career transition.
Okay. And go in a little more depth. What are some of the benefits and the actual programs that you offer, and what are the benefits of some of those programs for people in the program?
So we have a number of benefits in programs. So the first one is our career marketing workshop. That is a 10-week curriculum, outplacement curriculum that we would put you through. So we spend the first 3 weeks looking at finding your gifts. And that's applicable to most people because, and I think this is one of the generational differences between, our age group and the younger people, is we didn't always necessarily think what would make us happy in our work life. And so finding our gifts gives you an opportunity to explore, what you're good at, what you liked doing, why you liked doing it, and trying to identify, core competencies that might be able to carry forward into your next opportunity. So with finding your gifts, we spend the next 7 weeks building on those, building PAR statements, problem, action, result statements, so that they can be included in your resume and in your interview. And then we really focus on networking. So getting out and leveraging the people that you know to be another set of eyes and ears for opportunities that might be out there. So that's our career marketing workshop. It does have homework. It has deliverables. It has some expectations that you're there the whole 10 weeks. For those people that might be too long or think that might be too long, we have a skills program, which essentially runs through the same topics, but probably a little less formalized. And with those topics, once we had the class, like you came in and talked at one of our skills programs, once it's done, there's no real follow-up on your end as far as me knocking on your door and saying, okay, so we talked about resumes, send me your resume, unless you want to, because I definitely would take a look at resumes. So that's our skills class. We're running those the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month at Northway Christian Community up in Wexford. We also have another program called Coffee with Hope, and that meets the first Thursday morning of each month at Northway. And it's kind of a round table. So we have some great facilitators. It's kind of a check-in and see how you're doing with your job search. We kind of address a little bit more maybe the emotional component, as well as, if they know somebody who knows somebody, they could be part of your network and refer you out to other folks. And then for practice, we also have quarterly networking events. And they're held at St. Killian School up in Cranberry. And there is a great, safe environment that you can practice your tell me about yourself or your elevator speech. We have networking opportunities because we do get some recruiters and volunteers in. So it's a nice, safe place where somebody could review a resume, talk to you about your background, and start getting you used to that networking piece. Along with that, we have the potential of one-on-ones with our board members as part of our intake. And then we partner and, on our website, have other organization meetings as well, such as PAPN, Saints John and Paul Church, and Execunet.
I was not aware that Priority to Work did as many things as you just ran through. That's quite an extensive program. Well,
thank you. It's been a work in progress, and it's Priority to Work is a legacy organization from Priority 2, which got its start back in the mid '80s, assisting the steelworkers in their transition. That's where we got our start, and then we recently merged with Discover Hope Here out of Cranberry, which is another organization that's helped us and been assisting folks for about the last 10 years.
Wow, very impressive. That 10-week program you talked about, is that a one-on-one program or is that done in a group?
No, it's more of a small group. So the way we work it is we have some instruction, so more of a classroom setting, and then we break out into small groups. So typically we break out into triads. So it'll be 2 participants with 1 facilitator.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Absolutely wonderful. So for people looking to make a career change right now, or people who are actually looking for a job, what's some of the best advice that you can give them?
First one is be patient, because it'll probably never work on your time frame. Second would be proactive in getting the word out. So networking is huge, especially in the Pittsburgh market. People know people, probably all have heard the, 6 degrees of separation. Probably in Pittsburgh, it's 2 or 3. So get out and make sure people understand what your background is and what you're looking for. And that would be really helpful. So, and also making sure that you have the tools. So do you have a business card? Do you have, tell me about yourself. So a 30-second spiel about your background. And, do you have a profile or resume, effective resume? So, my definition of an effective resume is something that shows your accomplishments and results and not your responsibilities.
Very good. And most people, when they write their resume, they write it according to their responsibilities.
That is correct.
So that's excellent advice. Networking and the way you write your resume, I think, are 2 really, really good pieces of advice to give people that are looking to change jobs or to find a job. What are some of the hottest careers right now?
Well, here locally, healthcare is always big. So, and of course we have RNs and LPNs, but you also have to remember that there's a lot of support that goes around the hospitals and the businesses. So, I think UPMC still holds as being our biggest employer here locally. The other one I wanted to mention is manufacturing. So even though, they say manufacturing is down about 5% overall in the local area, there's still thousands of jobs available. and they're pretty good paying jobs. So you start in, $15, $16 an hour and work yourself up. I think I saw on the Catalyst Connection report that just came out that the average for a production worker is $55,000 a year. So that's nothing to sneeze at. And, according to everything I read, we're going to be short workers here quite a bit over the next 10 years.
Wow. Healthcare and manufacturing. The healthcare, I think everybody can see that. The manufacturing is not one that people think a lot about. And they think about the old types of manufacturing jobs that really just wore people out. And after a 30 to 40 year career in the manufacturing space, people were tired. Manufacturing is not like that anymore.
It's not. And especially if you have computer skills. So the whole CNC machining, if you have that background or can master that background, you'll have a career for life. The other fun area to explore would also be the Shell petrochemical plant. So that's going to come online here in a couple of years, going to have 600 jobs when it's all said and done. And they're bending over left and right to ensure that they have local work population here. So they've partnered with the Beaver Community College and have a program in place that will give you the skills that they're looking for to be one of the production people there at the plant. So again, $6 billion investment in the area, 600 people permanently working, along with some support staff in there. So that's going to be a huge focus here over the next couple of years.
Definitely will. And there's already, from what I have heard, there's already plans on the books. They're already talking about building a second plant, which...
Yeah. So, I think some of the companies are looking to see how this works out for Shell. But I have heard, the area could support up to 5 of those types of plants. So that would be just crazy.
That would be absolutely amazing for our area. Before we close out, is there anything else you'd like our viewers to know about you, about Priority to Work, or about our local job market?
Well, certainly Priority to Work is, going fast and furious. Like I said, we meet the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of each month with the skills program. You can look at our website, which is prioritytowork.org. So that's the number 2 in there, all one word, and keep up with the events and stuff like that. My other pet project is I still try to dabble in the veteran space. So, hire a vet. There's a lot of veterans in the area. There's a lot of veterans in need. So if you have some aspect of your jobs that you want to try to hire a veteran, one of the local organizations that focuses on that is the Veterans Leadership Program. The Career Development Center also has a veteran program to assist veterans in transition. So, it's a vibrant community, and I think it's those folks, especially if you can get them from out of town and get them up in here, will help with that shortfall of people for all the jobs that we have open. So I look forward to seeing some of you, and if I can help you, you can just let me know.
Wonderful. Gene, thank you so much for your time. At the end of the show, there'll be a slide that will have contact information on it for Gene, for Priority to Work, as well as those other organizations he has just mentioned. We'll go ahead and put those up as well for anybody that wants to contact any organization out there to help them either change careers, change jobs, or get back to work. Gene, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here with us today, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Great. It was a pleasure, Greg, and thank you for all the things that you do.
Thank you.